Welcome to The Power of Care, a podcast that shares insights, trends, and developments in the senior care ecosystem with a focus on technology and innovation. My name is Marc McGrann, Director of Business Development at Vyar, a company that specializes in advanced, contactless, and private wellness technology. Each episode, I will be discussing the rapidly changing elderly care market with experts from the sector, including community operators, technology providers, caregivers, and senior living real estate developers. I hope this podcast brings you valuable content and information on the sector. And now for our guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast here today. We have Bob and George from Well Aware Care. Guys, thank you for joining me on this. It's been a pleasure working so far. I can't wait to kind of talk about everything with you guys and really just the market as a whole. But before we dive in with things, I always like to have you guys tell your story a little bit from your side, kind of why you came with Well Aware Care. I know the story, but I think it'd be great for any listener to kind of hear from your side and hear how it kind of came about. Why did you guys step in and what you're doing?
Okay, George, I'll let you start.
So Bob and I are cousins. We've been friends for a long time, and we took a look at the senior market. And Bob had recently had some trouble with his dad, and we thought, there's got to be a better solution than the final answer always being just put him into a nursing home until his time expires. And his dad had fallen and spent quite a long time on the floor before anyone discovered him. And I said, there's got to be a better way than that. I mean, my mother 10 years ago, she lived alone. She had had a heart attack, and she was laying on the floor for a day until we discovered her. So I think finding a way to prevent that is really good, and it's good for everyone. So that was kind of the genesis of this, and we came across Vyar, and we thought, well, that's just the perfect solution for what we're trying to do, which is allow people to live as independently as they can in either an assisted living home or in their own home they're choosing. Do you have anything to add there, Bob?
Yeah, so and thank you for having us today, Mark. So we did a little market research, and we talked to some assisted living facilities and some home care companies, and then some individuals, and talked to them about what their biggest concerns were regarding care for seniors. And the overwhelming response was fall detection and remote monitoring, and then right behind that was sleep data. So the quality of sleep and all that. So that's where we basically started. We started looking for companies out there that made devices that we could partner with. And we drew on our backgrounds. George's background is product marketing and business, and mine is on the technical end of development and product qualification. And when we were looking for fall detection, we wanted something that was non-intrusive, specifically something that the end user didn't have to wear. And with the Vyar solution, it met all of our requirements. It's very comprehensive, no wearable devices, and safe and easy to install. So we reached out to Vyar, made arrangements to bring it into our cloud, and we believe we have an excellent solution.
Now, with you in your cloud, you guys bring in a lot of different things to it. It's not all Vyar based. You have a lot of different, you can basically plug anything into it. I mean, if it can communicate up to you, you're able to do something with it. Is that right?
That's correct.
Absolutely true.
The whole idea is to have a myriad of products from all different perspectives. Our belief is data. We pull data together, and then it's how we manipulate that data on the back end that really is where our value add is.
Gotcha. So, I mean, was that it from the beginning? Was it always connect all these dots, or was it the original product? I mean, how does that come about when you were looking at your own family and solutions? I mean, what drove all of that side of it?
So looking at all of the different solutions that are out there, and they're, it's growing every day. Everyone wants to get into this, this type of market because the senior population is getting older by 10,000 every day. And so managing all these devices on different apps isn't very useful to people if they're looking to, remotely monitor their parents, or, to even look at like some of the health devices that are out there that the seniors are using now. So we decided that building one aggregative app that's very easy to plug into was the way to go. And we thought that's what the market was missing. And we know we can fill that niche.
So the challenge I always find is you connect all this different stuff together. You're finding the piece and the parts, and you're saying, okay, this is all going to plug in. It's all going to work. Is you still bring it somewhere, and it's not easily put into place.
Yeah.
It's, when I was younger, me and my dad, and we tried to put in a new garage door in the house. There's a lot of parts to a garage door when you're replacing one of those things.
Yeah.
And of course, when we put it in, it went up, and it was just clunk, 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 clunk the whole way up. It was terrible.
I've had that experience too, but
yeah. But you had somebody come in and knew what they were doing later on. You had a guy come fix it. Guys out there like an hour, whereas we spent all day. He's out there like an hour, and things going up and down. No problem, rolling right along. Do you guys run into that? Isn't that kind of the same problem though when you're providing a solution that does everything? Is you kind of come in and you're like, here's all the pieces and parts, but now you got to deal with the person you're giving it to. Yeah, the end user, the person you're giving it to. Even their family members, a lot of time, they're not as up on how to do it. I mean, how are you guys working around that side at this point? I mean, for someone that's listening to this, they're probably thinking the same thing I am. Okay, you have a great solution, but how do you actually get someone to use it, put it in place?
So ease of use is at the heart of what we do. We take the technical piece on, and we figure out all of the complexities, and then we do configuration in-house. So when we ship our system, you literally open the box up, and you take it out and you plug it into the wall, and it comes online. So the only piece you really have to learn is basically our portal, how to log in and navigate through the portal, and then we're going to have an application, a smart mobile app as well. So you'll have to log in on that. But the beauty to that is once you get familiar with our portal and our application, we'll keep adding solutions and devices on the back end to gain more and more insight into the overall care of the senior, and you won't have to relearn or reinvent the wheel every time. We take care of all of the technical difficulty.
So how do you do that? If I've got, let's say I have a senior community, I've got a care home community, and you're selling me, you're shipping the whole network and then everything. What does that mean? What is in the box? I mean, is this a box that's 12 feet wide and 6 feet?
So if you're talking about a community, what we do is the first thing we do is we install our own private network. So that solves a lot of problems. First of all, in most facilities, unless it's a brand new facility, and then the Wi-Fi network is a challenge. So we solve that problem by, with every unit, it comes with a network, and it's a secure private network. So that solves two masters. Basically, you don't have to worry about if the network devices get hacked. You don't have to worry about anybody getting onto your network. We're isolated and secure. The second thing is it allows us to pre-configure the devices to your customization needs. And what we do is we bundle it by suite. So if you have a facility that has 100 rooms in the suite, we pull the stock for each room, we configure it, and then we box that up by suite. So then whoever's doing the installation, first thing they do is establish the Wi-Fi network, and then they go into each suite and then they unbox the devices and they physically plug them into the wall. It finds our private network and it's online in a matter of minutes.
So when you say your private network, I mean, if I were in that suite, I pulled up my smartphone and looked at networks, there'd literally be one here that says Well Aware Care Network.
Yes, our pretty much, we have a nomenclature for each company, but it would identify its own private network, and nobody can get onto that network. It's meant just for our smart technology devices.
So is that done? Is that just security reasons? Is that also, what other advantages does that have for the community itself?
Well, it's first of all, it provides a network, a strong network throughout the whole wing or community, but it also allows us to pre-configure the equipment ahead of time. So when we pull the configurations together and custom configure them, and they arrive on site, the technology is right out of the box, plug and play, literally.
Oh, so you're saying so it's a strong network for the entire community. I mean, this is something that out of the box, you're giving them something that I've got a building. We know this happens out there in the assisted living world and every bit of the senior community world, but they've got a building that was built in 1960, was not made to have Wi-Fi. Today, it barely has Wi-Fi, or they have a weak network that kind of comes in and out depending where you are, not really used a ton, or it only works at the front desk. But you guys come in and you put out routers and repeaters. So you give them something so they can put out routers and repeaters through the whole thing, so that now all of a sudden there is a network everywhere, and you make sure there's strong Wi-Fi throughout the community, even if they didn't have it initially.
Exactly.
You're bringing that along.
We deploy our own mesh network in each wing of the facility, and so we're guaranteed to get a strong signal at all corners of the building. We can control it if there's areas of the network that the signal's not strength. We can sustain that with a satellite router. We don't have to ask permission. We just go in and do it. So it helps them and it helps us, because a lot of the challenges that you see when you're installing your equipment and you're relying on somebody else's Wi-Fi and it's inadequate is, how do you get them now to improve it, right? You have to get permission from IT, or if they even have an IT department, and then they have to figure out, what do I need to do? That's the biggest question I faced. Okay, I realize I have to fix it. What do I do? We've solved all of that for them. We don't even ask the question. We just say, here's a new network. It's going to sit right beside your existing network, if you have one, and it's going to, I'm guaranteeing it coverage for the devices you've just purchased.
That's fantastic. I think that's one of the things that's always surprising to me. That should say the surprising is the variance between different communities that you go to. Because I know I've been to some, and you walk in the door and it's like, of course, yeah, we run Wi-Fi throughout the building. It's just, we have our guest Wi-Fi network, and if they want their own or something like that, they can buy their own. But it all exists. But then you go to others, and it's like, oh yeah, this, it again. I've been in some. It only works at the front desk. I've been in some that is completely independent routers in every room, where I don't even know how they build these rooms so that you don't see everybody's Wi-Fi, but you just see, what was purchased and the person inside of it. That's more independent living, I guess. But I think the importance of the network, have you ever thought about offering that too as a way to, hey, we'll help your community upgrade your network, or, we also do this? Does that come around?
No, it's never really been an issue. We just in a facility, assisted living facility, we just augment each wing. So it's not even a question. We don't have to discuss it when we're educating people about the system and how it works. We just tell them at that time, we're going to install a Wi-Fi network in your facility, and you don't have to worry about that. And it's funny, but every response I get is, oh, good. Because they don't want to have to deal with it.
The IT guy, I would say, in some places you go to, is usually the guy it's just the youngest guy in the room, yes. Right? It's not necessarily an IT guy. It's just someone that knows how to open the new stuff. And
you're absolutely right. And they're usually, if the first thing they say is, wait a minute, I'm inheriting this, and I'm going to have to sweat the network connectivity. And when I say, no, we do all that for you. All you have to do is provide me a place to plug this cable in, which is their internet server provider.
Gotcha. So it's like, as long as you do have internet in the building, it's not, you don't need Wi-Fi. If I have internet in the building, all right, I can plug this in somewhere, and we'll be all set from then on. So I mean, this is the most out of the box, you don't have to do anything solution I think I've seen. I think that's crucial too. So I mean, just switching a little bit away from the specifics of yours, but I think in general, I mean, most solutions out there, almost every solution out there, when you show up, always has kind of a caveat of, well, it's got to have this, it's got to have that. I mean, even our own solutions have, requirements for Wi-Fi and things like that. But I guess if it came in the box with the Wi-Fi,
Yeah,
and it's something that just doesn't exist anywhere.
and that was one of the things George and I, we said, we tried to anticipate what are all the challenges. Well, they wrestle with Wi-Fi. Let's just give them Wi-Fi. Let's find a cost-effective solution that can grow with the customer, and we'll just solve that problem for them. And we've installed this in several communities right now, and it's working fantastically, and no complaints. Everybody loves it.
Well, do you have to run wires all over the community though? I mean,
No.
if it's
No, the unit that we're using, you make one physical connection into the main router, and then it has a concept called a backhaul, which is a dedicated wireless connection to the satellites. And then wherever you do a sniff in the air throughout the facility, and you find all the areas that are weak in signal, and you just add another satellite, and it basically connects to the main hive and the other satellites, and that's how you build up this giant mesh that gets coverage.
So I guess, George, from your side of things, you're not going and looking at, hey, is this a new building that's going to be built in 6 months, or is this a current existing one? Really doesn't make a difference to you when you're reaching out to different clients.
It doesn't make a difference to me, even if they don't have Wi-Fi, because we've talked to a pretty major phone company who is looking to expand into this market, and they are quite happy to provide that backhaul piece of it to the internet through cellular services. So that's not even a consideration anymore. We could put this any place, anywhere. Doesn't matter if it's a separate facility from where the Wi-Fi is. We can bridge that gap using cellular technology.
I mean, is the Wi-Fi one of the biggest hurdles to get over? I mean, if I'm the IT company and you're coming in and I'm getting, so Bob, you've been on this side of the fence. Someone's come to you, this new technology they want to put into your place. Is your biggest hurdle probably, at least in your mind at first, going to be, wait a minute, you got to get on my network?
Well, it's in some cases too. It's actually, do they even have internet capabilities? There's a lot of companies, especially throughout the South, where broadband hasn't even really been built out yet, and that's what George is alluding to. We had to come up with some type of solution for that region as well. So, in the wake of 5G in the cellular world, we can provide an internet connection through cellular capabilities, and then that gets us our leg onto the internet.
It's very, very cost effective. So I mean, that's a market they want to play in, and they're willing to invest in it by giving it to you really effective.
Is that because you're able to limit and control the devices that are running on it? I mean, is that why you don't want someone coming in with their smartphone or their tablet and streaming movies over your network while they're trying to provide care at the same time?
That's a piece of it. I mean, obviously we pay for our usage, so we wouldn't want to open our network up to other people that are just streaming videos. But with that said too, it's a security thing. So everybody's very secure conscious today, and this is just yet another way that we can guarantee to our customers, all the devices that we're putting throughout your facility are not on your network. You don't have to worry about that.
That is a serious concern, because I think, with us at Vyar, that's where a lot of our stuff started too, right? Was when we have competitors out there today, they're coming along and they might have this type of camera or that type of camera. This one, well, it doesn't, actually have an image of you. It's just kind of sort of, or this one, it deletes every 24 hours, whatever it may be. You run into those things. Our camera with our device, you can't see anything from our device. Our device is just getting radar coming back to it. And even then, people are concerned about it at the end of the day. So look, I don't care what it is. They're worried about that. There's always a security concern there. We've been through security tests because people want to make sure that our device can't be used for anything else, which our device is completely secure, so we have no problem doing, but it comes up over and over again. I think this is another layer of that comfort factor. As we're putting these things, when you guys think back to your own family members, which, when this was driving the idea at the beginning of this, I'm sure a big part of it was comfort. If I'm putting something into mom's home, man, am I gonna have to put this onto our network and monitor this whole thing? That's something that bothers me. It weighs on me. If I'm a community, it's the same thing. That's gonna weigh on me that it's got to match up with my stuff. I feel like every time I come home for something new and technical, it's always a matter of like, well, I think I answered every question, but you find out 10 minutes later that you were wrong.
Right.
It's like I was just in Europe and plugging one of our devices in, wrong adapter on the end, didn't have the right amperage. Right. You get, next thing you know, we're in there for 40 minutes experiencing brownouts of the device, can't figure it out. Well, there was a technical piece, a little detail that, we thought we resolved. Okay, just put an adapter on there, no big deal. Well, actually, the adapter you have isn't the adapter that you need. I think it's the same thing.
I've actually run into that in Europe. That's why I'm laughing. But
right. It's terrible because
Yeah.
I was wondering why my computer was having the same issue. My laptop's going in and out, screen's cutting out, and everything
phone.
else.
It was my phone.
That's even worse. That's scary. But when you're dealing with all these different network things, it's a comfort level. And I think you guys are at the beginning of it. We're taking care of another comfort. When we're coming in with any type of solution on the market, if I'm evaluating them as a, an owner today, as a director, or a home care agency lead, nurse, whoever it may be, whatever is going on, you have to sit there from a perspective, okay, how do I make this comfortable and how do I make this so that it works, that it slides into place, and that it's something that just fits neatly. And how nice is it if it just comes out of one box for once, instead of someone handing me, a product I just purchased and a grocery list.
Right.
That's hard to overcome.
I personally never read those instructions. So the furniture I've put together is all pretty weak. Like, don't put anything on that table. But so I know that, and that's part of what we wanted to do. So we wanted to make this not only easy to use, but easy to set up. We wanted to make this private. And by private, I mean no cameras, no chance of getting hacked by putting it into another network. So by doing the things that Bob and I have done, we feel like we have a pretty secure network, a pretty secure set of devices. And because most of all, we respect the privacy. And you mentioned cameras. So we know family members who have put cameras in their house. Neither of us like that. I think nobody wants a camera in their house. And I think it's I think there's a certain amount of dignity that we have to have when we address this market. And if we can find more ways to get more information, but not encroach on that privacy, I think that's our goal. And that's our definition of success.
It's massive. And now I'll say this with cameras too. It's just one of those things that every scenario is different. You don't like to deal in extremes of, always, never. Those are things that just, you can't use, because in some cases, obviously, they're going to have their purpose and their reasons for being there.
Sure.
If you've got one of these mile-long hallways, sometimes the camera is a little better because you're just going to cover the full distance. You can see stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had an experience. Someone was using, you guys had a customer using our product that fell. The device was able to catch what's going on. They had a camera also in the room that was able to be activated remotely during emergencies, which is another fantastic thing you guys offer. But they were able to flip on their camera and they got a better understanding of what was going on and confirmed the incident.
Right.
Again, value there, but protected in a comfortable way where it's running on its own network. It's separate. It's able to be activated after the fact. I mean, these are all things that I think they have to think of. It's got to be tough when you're in the shoes as a director. If I'm someone on that side of things, and George, you've had a lot of conversations with them when they're evaluating new technology, because they're getting approached every single day. Someone's always got a better mousetrap.
Sure.
They're trying to shove through the front door. But I think it's a daunting task to look at technology as advanced as it keeps getting. I mean, now we're talking about using radar imaging to watch over somebody. That's a lot. So, I mean, if you were to switch chairs with them and give them some advice when they're looking at new technology, whether it's something new for the kitchen or a new safety product, I mean, what are those? Are there some things that you would tell them? Look, sit back, calm down. These are some of the basics you can look for to kind of simplify things for yourself.
So, I think when you talk to a lot of these executive directors, I think they're really locked into the status quo, right, of the way they do things. So as technology begins to enter their world, they're very cautious about, you know, how much exposure does this lend to me if you have all this information. You know, can the family members get all this information, because I may not want them to have it all. And to me, that's definitely the wrong approach about this, right? So the approach that they should take is, you know, by putting the fall detectors in, by putting, you know, the sleep mats in, by, you know, giving smart scales and vital sign gathering data, what they're doing is they're offering better care, and they're offering better care to people that will live in their facilities longer. And I think some of them are a little short-sighted in that they may not see the value in that, but there is definitely value.
Just something, I think you brought up a good fear point too for a lot of these places. And I don't know how do you guys approach it, but it's the balance of, do we share information? Well, one of the things I get all the time is the more stuff you bring into place, that, it raises our liability because now people know, you know, what's going on behind the curtain. Now they're seeing how the sausage is made. And
Yes.
sometimes I think that gets driven a little bit too far down the road. Because the one thing I always say is, I've talked to places before and they'll say, well, if somebody falls here and we don't respond, you know, now we have proof we didn't do it. Now we're going to get sued. And I always say, well, if that person spends, you know, 2 hours on the floor, do you think you weren't going to get sued to begin with?
Right.
That's my first thing. And then my second thing is usually the, what's the problem here? Is that if you guys know someone's on the ground and you don't help them, is the problem that you knew someone on the ground, or that
You didn't
your
help
staff member didn't help them?
I know. I totally agree.
That's probably your problem.
And I have to admit that does annoy me, because you know, a lot of these facilities are charging $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and to not want to provide that kind of care, I find a little bit troubling. Right?
Yeah, and I think that comes around to the other side of it when people think about, you know, should we share information with loved ones and family? I think there's a balance to that too. It's not always a 100% out, but that balance of, you know, if we're going to share things with the family, or how should we approach that? You know, you've got to start looking at what information is actually being shared. How is it actually going to be used by the family? You know, without oversharing as well. You know,
sure, I agree.
And controlling that data flow. But go ahead.
So I'd just like to add one comment to that. So I think a lot of this is the unknown, right? It's a new way to do this, and people just can't, or they haven't wrapped their head around it yet. But you know, in the future, 20 years from now, this will be commonplace. Technology will have to play a major part of caregiving for seniors because of the demand. And we'll have the other conversation. Instead of people being afraid of being exposed, that they haven't, they're not meeting these falls and attending to these things fast enough, they'll leverage the technology to say, I have the right people in the right time when I need them now. And that's where somehow we need to educate the people and get them to that point, realizing, hey, this isn't really a bad thing for you. This is helping you. Because right now you have people falling and you don't know it. We're helping you get there.
It's a proof point for you.
Exactly.
So given where, you know, the troubles that they're having right now with finding qualified people to come in for staff, you know, augmenting that with this technology just makes total sense to me. You know, if you can't fully staff a shift, having this kind of technology is your staff. You know, it's telling you where you need to put your people, where they need to go, where they can most help the people who need it the most. And cracking that code for them is troubling. It's it's some of it's hard. There are just absolute people who don't want to hear about it. You know, we have the best way of care. When, you know, somebody falls, we get to them within that golden hour. Well, how do you know that? I mean, there's a lot of people that don't understand time when they're laying on a ground. I mean, That's the most troubling thing about this. Why you wouldn't want someone to be attended to quickly. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Well, I think,
Like,
like I said, there's fear of change is got to be at the heart of anything. Anytime you're bringing new technology to market. I mean, I've launched a few products myself, and as we come out with them, every single time is a pushback, because there's always the corner case thing of like, well, what about this scenario? It's like that wasn't being handled before anyway. It's like,
Right.
you weren't resolving that before. When I moved to mobile PERS, there were things that came up like that. Well, the GPS location isn't always perfect. I'm like, before you couldn't leave the house, but now we could, now we can follow for snow. So like, these are significant.
Yep.
I'm thinking, yeah, I brought you something that's better, but now you're complaining that it's not better than better. But I think that's always where things are going to go. But in these communities too, I think getting them to understand a little bit more of what you said, Bob, from your side, it's a proof point. This actually is turning around more. What I see more often is it's kind of proving what the staff can do and showing them things that they already knew. I mean, there's times where staff go in and they know that this person fell. You and I've talked, but we've all talked about this before, but or they know a person's fallen, but the person says, no, I didn't. I mean, they get half the face is bruised or hips are all messed up down the line. And well, you clearly fell. No, I didn't fall. Well, now we've got somebody that's kind of watching there. On the other side of things too, you've got something that's going to improve your overall service because it is a tool at the end of the day. As you brought up, George, from your side, I just spoke to a community recently. Now this community is pretty advanced. They're doing some big things. Fantastic community. But now with the Delta variant coming around and dealing with the staffing crisis, they're kind of getting hit from two fronts. We were about to start a pilot. We were trying to restart talks this month and then move into it because they were just getting out of their COVID state and they're kind of ready to start doing new technology. And now they're getting hit again. So he said, I'm sorry, we've got to push this out. I don't know when. Let's push out another few months because I'm dealing with these staffing problems, this Delta variant problem. Well, my response back to him was, I absolutely understand. I know you don't want to bite off more right now while you're trying to deal with this. If there's anything I can do to help, please let me know. I mean, that's pretty limited. I mean, what am I going to do? So I said specifically, if you're having trouble with staff, I could send you these devices. That was my point.
The problem, Mark, is
you're having a problem with staff. Yeah,
they can't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah,
this is a virtual staff, right? You're showing them the device. This allows you to be present when you can't be, right?
And you put a sleep tracker on and some of the other things that we're offering, and you have a total picture of this person and what's going on with this person without entering their room, without endangering them with possible COVID. I think they'll get it. I think it's just a matter of time. We just need to keep pushing that message because
I mean, I look at it as my staff members. One staff member is monitoring 12 rooms. They're given the 5 minutes a room as they do their rounds. That's every hour. That's an hour of their time right there, and they're probably doing hourly rounds. So that means they're given 5 minutes a room, which isn't doing anything. That's a poke your head in the door. How you doing? Need a blanket? That's not actually doing anything.
Right.
It's been my experience, Mark, that the most effective way to enact change is with the data, and that's what we're talking about here. We'll take these devices and gather the data to not only say, well, maybe you're not seeing to these people fast enough when they fall, but it'll actually help them say, look at all the events that you need to see. How are you going to do that with 2 people? You need more people, and the data is clearly there.
Yeah, that's right. It can also justify. So when you're having those conversations with investment, if you're a nonprofit, state funded, now you can have that justification behind it where you can say, look, here's the data, here's the cold hard facts. I've had conversations with communities all the time where I say, look, I want you to sell to me a little bit. Why would it matter if you got to, a person that fell faster? I mean, cold hard numbers monetarily, how would that make you money? And that's when they start breaking things down. They start to realize, the risk that they're paying on legal fees, the insurance costs. They start going to loss of residence is a big thing. Keeping them longer obviously has a huge benefit, attracting new people. I mean, it starts to add up, but you have to be able to put this is what you should do. And I think from the data side, though, for a long time, they've been eating that data, but they're not actually doing anything with it. I spoke to one independent living community, which is rather large, and they were looking at new buttons for their communities. And now I've got a lot of experience in that area, so I gave them a little guidance, pushed them in a few different directions, said, look, here's some people you can talk to if you're looking at getting those. And they were telling me about the advantage of the system they had today. And they said, well, it doesn't give us, or it gives us data too. Every time a button gets pressed, we know what was pressed for. And I said, fantastic. I said, what do you guys do with that information? Silence.
Nothing.
You
You're
know,
right.
hands up. I
Exactly.
was like, well, you got to do something with it.
That's
You
an
know,
opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah, the value is there right in front of them, but you've got to know how to, first, you got to invest in tools. You got to collect the information. You got to actually, build it and use it. But it could solve a lot of these problems I think we're dealing with. Staffing crises, struggles with care. How do we improve care overall? This is building out a care plan long term. I mean, if I can look at data over the last 60 days, I can probably build out a better care plan for this person over the next 6 months.
So we want to take that one step further, right? So that data is giving you a picture of something. It's telling you something. So instead of somebody sitting down trying to figure out what all these trips to the bathroom mean, if we can tell you that this person's bathroom activity has increased, 15% over the last 30 days, and over the last 60 days, it's up 30%, then we can tell them that possibly this person has a UTI that you might not be diagnosing, right? Or if this person falls and they recover and they get up, but there's a catastrophic fall coming, we can actually take that data and tell you, hey, the likelihood of this person having a more severe fall based on the data that we see, based on some of the probabilities of falling, you need to pay more attention to this person. So it's not just a matter of somebody's fallen and they get an alert. Yes, it does do that, but there's a lot of intelligence that we have to put behind all this data that we're collecting to help them do better care, to help them be more responsive, more proactive, right? So that's what we're trying to do in the background here.
Yeah, and you're not telling them, like, you need to get more staff, you need to cut staff. That's certainly not the point of this, but it's to adjust how you're handling. I was looking at it as the sports analogy. If I got my defense lined up and I got to cover the whole field because I got a great quarterback that's just spraying the ball everywhere, that's hard to cover.
That's right.
But if I've got tape and information and this guy's been around for a long time, we kind of know this scenario, he's 80% of the time going to run the ball left.
Yep.
Now we can adjust our defense and we become much more effective in that area. Spread defense is nothing. It's a Swiss cheese of defenses. But if you got someone that you can put there and say, we're going to block this side, well, you got an 80% chance of improving things. I think that's the idea of all these tools. Yes. Again, you didn't adjust staff, but now all of a sudden you're 80% more effective.
Right. Exactly the point. And if I want to know where that's going, I just ask Tony Roma, who seems to always get it right right. But no, I mean, part of the idea here is, there's a societal cost to falls. And you and I have talked about this a lot. The golden hour, the longer they lay, there's some correlation to the amount of medical costs, the aftercare costs, but more importantly, the patient trauma of someone who lies there, even an hour or an hour and a half. I mean, that's got to be a long hour for anyone who has fallen and they can't recover and get up, right? So all those things together, putting fall detection in there seems to solve that long lie time. And there's a response time that's acceptable, and then there's some that isn't. And if you are within that block where it's unacceptable, the response time, you should look to put these fall detectors in there, because that will help you get better. And we all want to get better. And
it's a stepped approach as well. And I think that's, again, bringing it back to the director level. If I'm at the community side of it, and I'm afraid, because it sounds like Well-Aware Cares, for example, is bringing so much to me, this whole network and everything else. You've got to have, if you've got the right company that's coming to you, Well-Aware Cares can show up and say, look, it all comes in each box. Each box is labeled. This is room 102. This is room 103, 104. And it's a simple setup that they can plug in, they can kind of run with. If you have a company start out, look, we've got a whole tool chest here, but right out of the gate, we're going to do fall detection. Let's start there. it will be a significant improvement to your communities if we can just start with step one, because too many of these guys are afraid to do anything because they're worried about step 10. They're worried about, well, doing data management of information coming in and adjusting care plans and guessing at UTIs. That sounds scary. Look, that's what we're going to get to. But if we start at step one,
Right.
if you can get over that first hump, get over that first one, just get the units in place, get everything going. Let's just look at falls. Can we catch 80% of falls with these devices? That's a significant improvement of where you were before, because as you both pointed out, you've got hidden falls that are there. You're going to start to realize those are existing more than you can. You can be adjusted on those. Simply faster response times to falls. Those are two major leaps forward that you're taking. And I think if you've got a good partner and you're looking at your technology, that's what you evaluate first. Is there a stepped approach to coming into this? Is it simple? And is it going to actually solve a problem? And I think that's the overall goal that we need to start looking at, as opposed to, I've got too much on my plate right now. We always say in sales, we always have the phrase paralysis by analysis. You're breaking things down too much so often and always thinking about the different variables so much, you end up doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a lot older than you. And I can remember when email first came out, right? And the first reaction to that was, well, this will never replace the fax machine. Right? And it has quite replaced the fax machine. So I think, this is an evolution of care, and this is, the next step are these devices. So
one thing I want to add to that, George, is from one of our customers, the initial feedback we got that I was hoping is that they did some analysis and saw that a significant reduction in falls, and it was the only thing that changed was the installation of our equipment. And so I was very excited to hear this. I didn't want to prompt them or put words in their mouth. So I said, what do you attribute that to? And she said, well, the way your system works, it's alerting us to the movements of the residents and the people that we need to keep tabs on or be worried about that fall. When we know they're out of bed, we get right in there and we're on top of them, and we're able to help them to and from the bathroom at night. So it's by virtue of that, it's cutting down on falls. So that's a win too.
A huge win. That's a massive win. I mean, that's gigantic.
Yeah,
I read a study. Yeah.
We were pretty happy about that. Go ahead, Mark.
No, that's fantastic. I read a study recently that talked about, I don't remember the full details of it. Sorry, I'm not citing my sources here. But anyway, but the study basically said that just faster response times to a button press ended up reducing falls in a community. And all that means is when someone's doing something in the community, press the button, they get there. So if someone needs, it doesn't matter if they need a glass of water, a blanket, or if they're trying to walk to the bathroom, fast someone gets there. But the fact is, what I attribute that to is, the more knowledgeable you are about the movement of the people, the more responsive you're going to be. And it helps them too, because also, since it's not something that involves them actually doing something. It's not someone pressing a button or pulling a cord or yelling for help, where the nurses sit there and in their mind have to decide, okay, do I think that's them wanting to go to the bathroom? Do I think that's them wanting a glass of water? Do I think it's them in an emergency? If they're doing that analysis in their head, now they're trying to balance it. If it comes up and it says, hey, George here is out of bed and he's walking around, that's something to move on,
Right, because George falls all the time, and he does. But
but that helps. That's something you can do, and now you're getting more detailed information about what's going on. So sometimes too, you might even get that button press, be able to look at your pad and say, okay, well, they pressed their button. Oh wait, they pressed their button and they're in their bathroom. That's more information. That's different information. If I get a button press and says they're in bed, well, I can also balance that out a little bit. Okay, they probably need, a glass of water.
Sure.
Or they're in their seat. They probably need, it's probably not something instant they have to be there for, but either way, more data, more information, more visibility is only a benefit. And again, it's improving things that starts out at a service level. It improves things for your staff, because I'm a big believer in investing in your staff. If you give your staff better hardware to work with, better tools to work with, they're going to hang around longer. Well, they're appreciative.
Yeah.
The job's hard. It's
That is
not
a
an
hard
easy
job.
job.
Absolutely. All the respect. All the respect.
Yeah, it's an extremely hard job. So I think if you can get that, invest in them, they're going to appreciate it. And you know what, though? All these benefits, they get to the important one too, which it does support your bottom line. It's going to keep people in your facility longer. It's going to capture people sooner. It's going to reduce liability, improve kind of your defense to things. It's also going to reduce overall medical costs for your facility. You're going to do better in numbers all the way around. So
I
all that
totally agree. It's going to help you attract more people because your care's better, right? When somebody's looking for a place to put their mom or dad, what kind of care is this? If you can show hard data, our response time to falls is less than 5 minutes. We're responding very quickly. We're getting all this data. We're looking at the kind of care plan that we need to do for your dad or mom, because you're putting a lot of money in here.
Oh, yeah.
So having all that information is going to help you attract new people to your facility, because I would want them. I can't wait to live there. I'm only a few years away from it, Mark.
Yeah, and you're laying it out to you. Prove it. Show me that. I can show you the information. We have stuff around this stuff. And it's all there, and none of it required any extra effort. Is the other thing I always like to press and just bring up. I've probably said it 1,000 times this podcast alone, but extra effort is also something. Know that person didn't have to step on a pad or pull a cord or press a button or sit on their toilet seat a special way, or flip a card at their door.
They're just living their life.
They just live their life. And as far as the staff go, they also do not have to step on something or press something or pull something or write notes on something every 2 seconds.
Right.
It's coming through and it's being fed to them. So I think that's tremendous.
Yeah. And the last thing I would say about that is the Jean, the person that fell, she actually fell in the bathroom and she fell right near a pull cord. But her first reaction wasn't to pull that. Her first reaction was to try to crawl to the door. So when someone's in a lot of distress, they may not think rationally like, hey, there's something I can pull to get help. They're going to try to get where there's people if they can. And it was really sad kind of watching her crawl across the floor to try to get to the door. And if she didn't have if the fall detector wasn't in there and her daughter-in-law wasn't alerted and told her, Jean, help's coming, she probably would have crawled all the way to the door. And I'm 90% sure that happens more often than not, right?
And they weren't supposed to, if I remember you first telling me too, they had just left her recently, right? They weren't supposed to come back and get her till dinner.
So yes, that is true. She had lived alone for a lot of years, and she fell and she waited a long time for someone to come and get her. And she said, you know what, I don't want to live alone anymore. I want somebody who can be there, who can, take care of me if I fall. This is a little bit before we had the Vire fall detectors in there. We had put like sleep sound, and we had put these they called vision sensors, and they were just like vision cameras. But she didn't want to live alone anymore. So she moved into here, and we waited a week for her to get settled. We put the equipment in, and then a week later she had that that pretty bad fall. So if we had these before she moved, she may not have moved, right? She may still be living in her home that she lived 40 years for. Right.
Well, I mean, that's why we do it. At the end of the day, I mean, these are the significant advantages we're providing. It goes, I always say, both levels. It's the user level. It's caring for somebody. It takes care of the family level. Yep. That's one we often forget about. The staff are taken care of. Their lives are improved. Management is improved. You're getting better vision into what's going on inside your community, but also helping that bottom line. I mean, it's all around. Everybody's being taken care of, and that's what I wanted to talk with you guys today. Was it's not about VIR itself, but it's about just technology in general. I guess if we're looking at what I hope someone listening to this can take away is, as they're looking at their different pieces of technology that are available in the market, these are things you should be evaluating when you're looking at something. What is installation going to look like? What does deployment look like? How complicated is this system? How connected is this system? Is it something that's going to come in and, again, it comes with a grocery list that you also have to go buy with a bunch of different stuff. Is it something that can plug and play? And then is it something that's going to benefit all these different stakeholders throughout the chain? So that's what I really wanted to hit on today. I wanted to open that up, hear a little bit about well-aware care, and talk through that. So we're getting a little bit short on time, so I'll just say I really appreciate you guys jumping on with me here today. As always, it is a pleasure to speak with you.
Always.
We'll continue our work together, get more of these communities on board, keep teaching as best we can, and hopefully continue to drive the industry towards that technology innovation that everybody's really looking for.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. It was a good 45 minutes.
Thanks for having us, Mark.
Perfect, guys. Thank you for listening to the Power of Care podcast. Remember to follow the channel to stay updated on future episodes. And if you want to connect with me directly, feel free to email me at mark.mcgrann@vyar.com.